older and crankier. You never left, or did you? So awkward. Stop again here. Just pretend the camera's not there. Whoa! Something bad is happening. Let's pretend that we're getting paid for this. I have problems. We will each get $1 million. Welcome to Mother Rabbit's awkward kitchen. Let's pretend that I did this on purpose. Cringe right now. Hopefully we won't make that mistake again.
Hello.
Hi. Awkward and creepy. So we're gonna make bread. Lots of bread. What do I say after that?
Don't say that.
This is going really well. The Mother Rabbit. Oh, you know what? I want more light in here. Okay, but this is the last time. Get it burnt out because we cook like burnt.
Keep making this awkward.
So we have not filmed an instructional video in a while, but we just had a major life change that I'm really excited to share with everybody. So I just feel like I can't not share it. If you notice this big awkward white machine, this might look to you like a really short fat diaper genie, but it isn't. It's actually a grain mill. This one is a Nutri-Mill, and we will be using this to mill all of our flour from now on in our family. And I came across some really great videos, podcasts, and just some general research about the benefits of working with real grain, freshly milled flour. This is just an example of one of them. This is the hard red. There's so much information that I can share with you, but I'm just gonna probably put some links down in the description so you can get your education like I did from the professionals, the people who actually know what they're talking about. What I'm doing is just doing what I have learned, and we are already seeing the benefits of this for our family. We just started milling our own grain a few days ago, and we're already seeing some benefits. So the nutrients are amazing. This technically I think will be episode 2, even though this is the first one that we are starting to film. I'm also gonna be doing, so today we're doing a sourdough. That's gonna not be finished until tomorrow morning, so that video won't come out until later. I'm also gonna be filming episode 1 today, which is going to be sandwich bread, which I can complete in one day, obviously. This is the first time on camera I'm going to be milling flour. So we're going to do our hard red wheat to feed my sourdough starter, which is pretty funky looking, but it's supposed to look like that. This starter is about a year old. If you don't have a sourdough starter yet, you can make one from scratch. It takes about 7 days. It's not a lot of work, but it takes 7 days, and you're gonna have a really immature starter, which is fine. Starters have to start somewhere. But what I highly recommend is you find a friend, family member, or a neighbor, somebody in your community who already has a mature starter. I got mine from a friend, and she had, I think she started hers herself, but it had already been a few months old. So anywhere you can get something that's pretty established, we call it a mature starter if it's established. If it's established, it'll look nice and funky like this. And I'll show you what it looks like on the inside.
That's been sitting in the fridge for a year.
Sometimes I clean out the jar and move it to another jar. Yeah, this has been going for a year. So it stays alive basically in the fridge, and it needs to be fed. It's kind of like a child that way. You need to feed it to keep it alive, but not as often as you have to feed your own children. And you want to feed it before you're ready to use it. So you only have to keep a little bit of starter on hand, and then you basically feed it what you want to use. So for this recipe, we are going to do a 100% whole wheat, kind of like a honey wheat sourdough. The only ingredients are going to be flour, water, honey, and salt. And that's all you need to make this amazing honey wheat sourdough. What we're gonna do is take this little bit of starter that I have here, and I'm going to add, I'm gonna make 2 bowls or 2 loaves in my Dutch ovens. Each loaf requires 100 grams of starter. So I'm gonna need a total of 200 grams. So I'm going to mill a little over 100 grams of wheat berries, because the ratio when you feed your starter, you wanna feed it generally half flour, half water. I like to go a little heavier on the flour because I like a thicker or stiffer, as they say, starter. Some people keep a pretty loose starter. It's kind of like you can pour it like pancake batter. Mine's like a really thick pancake batter. I just like it a little bit stiffer. I feel like I get a better bread that way. So I'm gonna measure out about, I don't know, let's say 150 grams of wheat berries. You're gonna need your little kitchen scale here. You can get these for like $10. You want to put any kind of little bowl on it here. We're gonna press the on button again to take the tare off so it sets it to 0. Then we're gonna take our wheat berries and measure about 150 grams. Like this. There you go. I wanna go over 100 for 2 reasons. I don't know if you can see me, so I'm gonna get low. First reason is, again, I like a little bit of a stiffer starter, so I'll probably go a little heavier on the flour. They can see me. A little heavier on the flour than the water. The other reason I'm going a little over 100 is because when I mill it, there's always just like a little bit of the dust that kind of just gets caught, and you end up with just slightly less weight than you poured in. Pour it in. So we're gonna turn this dial to about 12 o'clock to get a nice fine grind on that.
This way?
Yep. Whoa, something bad is happening.
What?
Okay, I have not done this yet, but I have heard about this happening. Let's pretend that I did this on purpose to show you what would happen if you don't have this drawer secured in the right spot. There are even little indicators here. This line where this drawer is on the no line. It says no, which means don't turn your mill on or flour is going to shoot out the side, which just happened. I might have to add more berries because we just lost a little bit of flour. Look, it's all over the floor. This is going really well. The way to prevent this is to make sure your drawer is pushed all the way into the yes line. So hopefully we won't make that mistake again. Because remember how we talked about how we were gonna remember how we talked about how we were gonna make that mistake on purpose so that we could teach them what not to do. Try again, put your top on, make sure that drawer is pushed in and turn it to 12 o'clock. Now you can hear the airplane landing. Pull it out, yep. So I'm gonna remove the lid by sliding it, opening it up, and there's gonna be a lot of kind of like stuck to the top. I just kind of give it a tap. And then there's this little catcher thing that gets like the finest dust. You just twist that off and let it fall in. I usually just make it snow a little bit. So you can see that we have some nice freshly milled flour to put in our starter. Just kind of help my flour go into my starter. And now I'm gonna fill it with some water. I'm just gonna mix it. Feels extremely thick, so I'm gonna put more water. It's looking really good now. I'm gonna put the cap back on, but just really gently so that there is a little bit of airflow. I'll just set it out on the counter.
Do you want me to put it in the fridge?
No, so we're not gonna put this on the fridge. We want it to be room temperature so that it can feed and slowly grow and get really nice and active and bubbly. So it's noon right now, so I'd say at about between 3 and 5 o'clock, we will turn it into some sourdough dough. So we have our active starter that's been sitting out for, a couple of hours. I have measured out 1,000 grams of these wheat berries that I am going to grind up in my mill, pour in the grains. We're going to make sure that the bowl is tucked all the way into the yes line. All right, I'm gonna put this flour aside for a second. While it was milling, I did measure, why am I showing you water? You know what water looks like, right? So I did measure 700 grams of water. For each loaf of sourdough bread, I use 100 grams of starter. So remember earlier, I fed it so that I would have 200 grams available for these 2 loaves that I wanna make at the same time. So I'm just gonna basically pour 200 grams into my bowl. You have to be careful. I already have my water in here. So if I go way over, I can't really take it out. So kind of give a little drop or a plop. Let's see how much that is. So I'm at 154 right now, getting close to 200. That's 180. It's so funny looking. It's very gloopy gloppy. Boop. Oh, there we go. So I'm at 204 now, which is perfect. And you'll notice it's like, oh no, all my sourdough starter is gone, but it's not. There's so much in there. As it sits upright again, it will all gather at the bottom. And you really only need to keep, I don't know, a couple of tablespoons at most of starter on hand, because whenever you are ready to make bread again, make sourdough again, you just feed it what you're going to use. It will, your existing starter will eat that, feed off of that, grow. You'll use what you poured in, and then you'll be back down to your few tablespoons. It is such a great system. So now I have my water and my starter in a bowl. I'm gonna set it back down to 0, and I'm gonna put about 60 or so grams of honey. Stir this together to get it started on getting mixed well. Woo! Okay, I'm gonna use my hand. Should have worn an apron. Okay, it looks like I'm gonna go ahead and get my hands in there, and it feels just great. Play with your food, like the OG Play-Doh, and think of how much fun your kids will have mixing this dough. Look how gorgeous this is. I mean, this is just fun. You don't have to do it as much as I'm doing it, but I get a little bit addicted to this like little mixing process. Put on my lid, and you can see that I have already labeled just with a dry erase marker. I put the time, oh, I was accurate. I estimated that about 4:15, it's 4:16 right now, that at about 4:15 I would have mixed my dough. Then I just put 4 SF, stretch and fold markers. So I'm gonna check those off as I stretch and fold. And I basically just set a timer for 30 minutes on repeat. And then I do, every time the timer goes off, I do a stretch and fold, which I'll show you in a little bit. Once you're done with your stretch and folds, then you just let it sit and continue to ferment for, I don't know, another 2 hours or so. We'll see, just depending on what it's looking like. You'll see it kind of puff up, and it actually pushes the top off the bowl, and we'll go from there. But for now, we're gonna let this sit. I'm gonna set a timer on my phone for 30 minutes. We'll come back and we'll do a stretch and fold. See you in a bit. All right, it's been a little over 30 minutes, and I'm gonna do my first stretch and fold on my sourdough. I'm gonna go ahead and check off my SF because I usually forget to check it off after I'm done with my stretch and fold, because I go right over to the sink and rinse my hands, and then I forget. I'm gonna give you a better view of the top of the dough as I stretch and fold it. And if you hear a little whining in the background, that is my youngest. He is very upset that he had to leave the park, even though they had been there for hours. You want strawberries? I will check and see if I have some. I have applesauce. Remember the applesauce that we made today? I have grapees. Strawberries. I don't have any strawberries. Put a little water on your hands. I'm just gonna pull up, just gonna kind of dig down the side of it, pull it up, and just give it a really nice pull without ripping. Boom. Quarter turn. If you need a little more water on your hands, just to keep it from sticking, that's totally fine. Yes, love. Pull up again. You're hungry? I'll make you some food, lovey-dove. Another quarter turn. Pull it up. Oh, love man, I am gonna make you some food. Lovey-dove, you are. Ow. Few more turns, we'll see. Are you feeling like cranky pants? I didn't mean to step on your foot. You kind of, do you want to ask me nicely? You want a chocolate muffin? Sure, go have a muffin. I'm gonna go around just a little bit more, and you can see that that gluten is already building. I pull it up a little bit.
You want milkies?
And just kind of grab it. And lately I've just been kind of like taking it and turning it over, so I don't know. It does its own like ball shape thing. So that was our first stretch and fold. I'm gonna set the timer for 30 minutes again and come back. I'm gonna go ahead and mark my second stretch and fold that I'm about to do, again, because I will forget to mark it. Stretchy and foldy.
Is this the dough that you grinded?
Yeah. And so that's it. So these stretch and folds take literally seconds, and And in between, you just do other things. I'm gonna check off the third stretch and fold in advance. And you can see that it's rising. You can see, well, I can see, I don't know if you can see the difference, but I can see that it's rising a little bit. So that's good. One more half-hour timer, and then we'll do one more stretch and fold. The fourth and last stretch and fold. Another little bit of a rise there. Putting the lid on, and I'm just gonna kind of set it and forget it for, you know what? I don't really need to put on a timer because all I have to do is kind of keep an eye on it, and I will see, eventually I will see the lid just kind of like, it'll be like floating. So it'll be about 3 hours or so, but we'll see. We'll see when the lid starts floating. I was just editing my sandwich bread video and looked over and I saw that my sourdough has risen and popped the top off the bowl. So I'm gonna say it is definitely ready to pre-shape and then do its final shaping and then overnight proof in the fridge. So let's get to it. So you can see that our dough has risen nicely. It fermented in total since mixing the dough. Remember, we mixed it at 4:15 and it is now 9:52. So let's just say that that's about a little over 5.5 hours. And so let's take a look and see what we are looking at here. It's so pretty. Now, with sourdough, you don't punch down the dough. You don't want to deflate it. You love all those air bubbles. They will deflate a little bit when we shape, but there's a whole process. Right now, we get to do a really fun thing that sourdough people like to call a dough dump. Sounds kind of weird. Really cool thing is I have found with this freshly milled whole wheat, I do not have to flour my work surface at all. It just kind of works perfectly. So I'm gonna do it this way so you can see it kind of spill out and pull away from the sides of the bowl. And it's just gonna kind of drop pretty cleanly. I usually help the last bit. And then just like I do with my sandwich bread when I cut it in half, I generally don't weigh out each thing of dough just because it's like, just cut it in half and they'll be about the same size. So, cut it in half like that. And then I just kind of look and see, okay, maybe this one needs to move over a little bit. That looks good to me. Oops. That looks like a pretty even cut in half. The next thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna move this for a second. The next thing I'm gonna do is kind of like just gather it into a little bit of a ball shape and just to bring it over like this. You can do it with your little bench scraper. You can kind of, looks more professional when I do it this way. And it just kind of gathers and forms this gorgeous dough into a ball shape. It is kind of creating tension around the surface of the dough, which is good. We like tension in dough. By the way, you may have noticed I had a little bit of a costume change since it is almost 10 o'clock. I am now in my jammy jams. And so we have this gorgeous ball of dough. We're gonna call that a pre-shape. Now what I do is I like to take my bannetons here and just gently put it over the top so those don't dry out. I leave them to sit out about 20 minutes. So I'm gonna take this other guy and just round him into a nice little ball. See how non-sticky it is? It's amazing. I find this dough so much easier to work with than with the white bread flour. It's incredible. But it still comes out fluffy and chewy and delicious. Not dry at all. Okay, so I've got some nice tension on that. I'm gonna put my banneton right over the top and just let it sit for about 20 minutes. Then we'll come back we'll do the final shaping and we'll get it in the bannetons and in the fridge overnight. See you in a minute. It's been 20 minutes, so I'm just gonna pop these off, and now we're gonna do the final shaping of our loaves. And I have some rice flour here that I just keep in a little jar. And this is actually store-bought rice flour, but now that I have my mill, I can make my own. It's actually the way that you get your mill started when you buy it, is you have to mill like 2 cups of white rice to clean it out, get it ready. So obviously I threw that out because that was like the cleaning rice. But next time when I need to use my rice flour, I'm just gonna mill some white rice, keep it in a jar, and I don't have to buy store-bought rice flour anymore. Okay, so the rice flour is to create like a non-stick environment for your bannetons. And rice flour just really gets the job done in terms of non-sticking. Regular flour will also work, not as well as the rice flour. So to do our final shaping, I'm gonna take our rested loaves here, and I'm just going to pull on the top a little bit and then bring it down. I'm gonna pull on the sides. And again, it's just all about tension, gentle tension in these loaves. We don't wanna break those beautiful air bubbles. We want to preserve them, but we want tension in the bread. That's gonna give us a nice round, fluffy finished product. All right, and then I just roll it up, and I'm just gonna gently tuck in those little seams, pulling back with my fingers on the back of this bread, creating more tension on the surface. Just a few times. And then just flipping it over into the banneton and just let it sit for about 5 minutes before we stitch it up at the end. We're gonna be like bread surgeons, stitching up the little. We're just rolling up to a nice ball, getting rid of those seams, tucking and turning, tucking and turning. And got another beautiful tight loaf here. Putting it back here. We're gonna let those sit for 5 minutes to relax the dough again. If I try to stitch it, it's just going to unstitch itself and pull away. 5 minutes will relax it enough that when I stitch it, it will stick, and then that's it. Okay. So just about 5 minutes later, the dough has relaxed a little bit more so that I can bring in the sides and fold them over each other. You'll see what I'm talking about. You just pinch the edges, the opposite sides, and just gently try to overlap them and press so they kind of stick. Don't pull too hard. We don't want to rip. We just like the tension. And it's just gonna make a nice little ball there that holds the tension so that when you put it in the Dutch oven and you bake it, it keeps that really round shape. It just helps it really stay intact. So again, this one, just gently. Nice and plump. Look how pretty. And then once that stitching is done, we just take our little shower caps, which are not real shower caps. They're little plastic caps for our bannetons. They're very convenient. You can buy them in packs of like 100 or so on Amazon, and just place them on top. I try to give some good air so that it doesn't stick directly to the dough, but this dough will rise, it will rise a little bit more in the fridge overnight. And even when the dough rises and touches the plastic, it peels right off, doesn't stick. So you'll see that these are not really filling up a whole lot of the banneton, and they're kind of maybe just coming up to the top slightly. This dough is so cool and so different from that bread flour dough because my bread flour would just kind of stay the same, barely increase in volume. This, by the morning time, maybe in, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours, it will just puff up and just kind of like dome over a little bit, and it's gonna be gorgeous in the oven. And when it comes out, you will see in a few minutes. I will see tomorrow morning. So I'm gonna pop these in the fridge and let them do their cold proof. And in the morning, we will continue this whole thing. It is the next morning and the dough has been cold proofing in the fridge overnight. So I'm just gonna get my Dutch ovens hot and ready to bake our dough and make those yummy sourdough boules, as they are called. So the first thing I'm gonna do is simply just turn on my oven to 475. While this preheats, I'm going to get my Dutch ovens in the oven to also preheat. You want your Dutch ovens screaming hot when you put your dough inside. I forgot to do one quick thing. I always forget to do this, but I'm gonna do it right now. I'm just gonna put my little tinfoil piece that I reuse all the time when I'm making bread. I'm gonna slip it on the rack that's right underneath the Dutch ovens. It keeps the bottom of the bread from burning. So I'm just gonna put this in real quick. Oh, that sounds. My Dutch ovens are preheated and I am ready to reveal my fluffy dough that cold proofed. You see how big that got overnight? All I'm gonna do is gently just kind of pop it onto my parchment paper right in the center there.
Check.
There we go. And then while the dough is still nice and cold, makes it much easier to make your cuts and scores. So I'm just gonna go about halfway and then go all the way around. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper. I like to get a nice deep score. That's going to allow the bread to really open up. See how it's already opening up a little bit when it cooks in the oven. The steam from that closed Dutch oven is going to allow this bread to expand and it is going to puff up and get really beautiful. And then you can just make a little design however you want. I'll just do like a little wheat. This loaves is so easy, anybody could do it. More wheat stalks. How appropriate, especially using these whole grains. Here we go. Now I'm just gonna bring these over and, well, I'm gonna take my Dutch ovens out of the oven, take the lids off, plop these in, and get them right back in. Nice and carefully. Hot and heavy. I'm gonna take off the lids. Now I'm just gonna take my dough, drop it in, take it, drop it in, and then don't grab the lid without your oven mitts, because those are super hot, remember? Make sure your lid is nice and secure so no steam escapes.
Yeah, I swear.
Sorry for the noise, background noise. Pop them back in.
I can't. It's bigger. I should swim up to it. No, but when it crashes down, is it big?
We're gonna set a timer for 25 minutes. Lid on, and then after that 25 minutes, we'll take the lid off and finish cooking. 25 minutes is up, so we're gonna take the lids off and then continue cooking. Oh my gosh, it looks so pretty already. I'll give you a close-up in a second. Oh my gosh. Look at this. Look how pretty those look already. I heat down. I'm gonna do 425 for another 20 minutes. All right, timer just went off. So we did 25 minutes lid on at 475. Then we did 20 minutes lid off at 425. And we are gonna take them out now. Take a look. Oh. Look how pretty. They look perfect. And I can feel that they're nice and hard on top, which means they're cooked through. one. And then you just lift them out. And then, guys, just be quiet for a second, okay? And then just lift them out, holding onto the parchment paper. Slide it off. Excuse me, guys. Lift out. Slide off. And look how pretty those are. The loaves are cool and ready to be sliced, so I'm just gonna take one, cut it down the middle. All the way through. Look at that. Gotta do the sourdough squish. Springs right back. It's actually a really soft texture. Still slightly warm inside, even though it's been sitting out for a few hours actually. And it is just soft on the inside, crusty on the outside, and smells amazing, super nutritious, only 4 ingredients. I'm actually gonna slice this up and then freeze some of it. So it's really easy to just pull out of the freezer, toast up a slice, and you are good to go. See that slice? Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe and make your sourdough with freshly milled grains.